Hello and thanks for checking out ChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. For access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. Hey everyone, so checking in on our laggard sectors, we're going to look at some airliners and some other stuff. Airliners, casino, hotel, we got an MJ name in here. So let's start it off with Jets, because Jets rejected from a very key resistance, and pre-market, it looked to me like we were about to break that resistance. We were up in the upper $16 range. The level to break was $15.91, but by the time the open rolled around, we were below that level, and it's giving us a beautiful equilibrium. So I'm anticipating to likely stay in this equilibrium until next week. Lower high compared to 1591, and now we're looking for a higher low compared to 1306. Those are the two most important levels for me. I'm in no position right now, but what I would love to see is for this equilibrium to get as tight as possible and then break. So I want to see another red day or two, and then a little bounce. And then late next week, I want to see a break, and then look to play that break. Keeping an eye on the S&P 500, starting to show some initial signs of weakness. We've now gotten through most of our major earnings. Still a few to go, but we've got Apple, Amazon, all our major tech names have been given their earnings, and the S&P 500 has seen some decent profit taking from the euphoria of last night. And while that's certainly not enough for the bears to gain a whole bunch of confidence, it's enough for me to start raising an eyebrow and saying, okay, let's protect against any possible pullback, and if we get any notable pullback and weekly consolidation in the S&P 500, which we know is coming any week now, and people have been saying that for multiple weeks, I'm well aware of that, but definitely not fighting the bulls, but keeping an eye out. These laggard sectors are going to be good bears, in my opinion, if the overall market starts to see weekly consolidation. Because if you look at Jets, we don't have any bull breaks on this entire move. It's just all lower highs. And if we drop down and break support from there, the bears will keep complete control. So just looking at AAL, individual airliner here, it's one of the weaker ones just because we dropped to a lower low. And I always want to look at an ETF and then compare the ETF and then look at individual names. And we held a higher low here on Jets, and AAL did not. So I can say, okay, the majority of the airliners are stronger than AAL, because AAL is weaker than the ETF. So a lower high at 1340, bull break over the last couple days with big bull volume, but still just a lower high compared to 1340. So certainly something we're going to be watching. Can the bulls convincingly change the daily trend, or are we going to break support and keep the bears in full control of this sector, which has been our weakest of the laggard sectors? And one more here is Love, and you can see Love is doing what the ETF did to start, and then got a bear break before earnings, and then again, tons of bull volume is coming in, but for these bulls to do anything under 37.31, still just a lower high, that's 20% away. So still a long road ahead for any notable longer-term momentum shifts out of these airliners. PENN, bit of climax day. We've had a bunch of huge days from the names that we're about to look at here in the casino and cruise line sectors. And look at pre-market. We were up at 1983, and it all came, well, that was after hours yesterday. But that's our euphoria after hours, and then we saw profit taking into that euphoria in pre-market. And next thing you know, we're down well over 10% from that high to the low of the day today. In the end, by the time the bell rang, it's a daily inside bar. If this inside bar breaks bearish tomorrow, we're going to look for daily consolidation, and we will anticipate a higher low will form. But I'm keeping an eye out bearish, and I played CCL bearish a few times today, which we will look at, but great top fishing plays on some of these names. 1874 was the high of yesterday. We topped out 9 cents below that level. You go short at 1860, you put your stop at 1877, you're risking 17 cents, and obviously the rewards are much higher than 17 cents. So I love top fishing plays when I'm looking bearish. CCL, I was salivating this morning looking at this gap up setting up in the 17s. And then by the time the open came around, I said, oh man, the setup I wanted, the third gap up open, I was looking to short it. I was looking for a home run trade. I was going to go a little bit bigger in terms of position sizing, and I was going to hold it a little bit longer. And as soon as that setup of morning sell-off into the open happened, game plan scrapped. completely scrapped because we dumped into the open. So that's a shift in response to the price action. And instead, I just went with what I've been doing the last 2 days with base hits and had a couple small trades, a couple small wins, get your day maker, good to go. So I went from a mindset of, I'm going to make a bigger trade. I like the setup. I like the high probability of the setup. It's high enough that I'm going to use more capital than usual, and I'm going to have more conviction than usual. Setup wasn't there. The trade did not come to me. As soon as I do not get my ideal setup, out the window. And I just ended up shorting this bounce, scaling in 1630s, 40s, 50s, 60s. I did end up adding a bunch of positions on there, scaled out on the pullback, and then I was pretty much done with it for the day. And good thing, because that volume and liquidity and volatility dried up. So what we're looking at on CCL is a pullback, and we're looking for a daily higher low to form. What do we need for a daily higher low? An hourly trend change. And we don't have one. We had attempt at one at the end of the day, but a rejection. If the bears break support of 1543 and 1518 tomorrow, there's a gap to fill at 1467. Watch these names that have been running for their first hourly oversold conditions. Because generally, when you see a bull run like that, the first hourly oversold conditions give you a solid bounce. And we would have to break the low of today tomorrow for that to be the case to get to hourly oversold conditions, but it will be something I'm watching for, especially when we know that a daily higher low is the most likely scenario. Because for CCL, anything above 1138 is a daily higher low, and that's a long ways away. RCL, same story. Top fish, 48.60 high of yesterday, 48.56 by 4 pennies. There was a top fish there today. Low of yesterday, we ended up breaking it by only 4 pennies. There was a bottom fish there. I always want to give some wiggle room. Pretty much 2 days in a row with the exact same range. If we break support, there's a gap to fill at 43.01, and I would be looking for an hourly lower high on this bounce, although we're seeing some weakness in after hours with market weakness thanks to Apple and Amazon bearish reaction to earnings. H, daily consolidation already underway very clearly. I'm watching these hotels for bearish entries if we see notable market weakness. Although with earnings approaching, maybe not. I would wait for earnings. I wouldn't be holding through earnings. But if we see the S&P 500 lose the daily uptrend and give us a weekly sign of consolidation, I'm going to be going from looking at the laggard sectors bullish because the S&P 500 was holding up, and I'm going to flip to looking at these laggard sectors bearish because the S&P 500 is starting to see weakness. Now again, go watch the market video. I'm not saying we've seen enough weakness for that to be the case, but I'm absolutely focused on that for the next week, because it's starting to see a little bit of a shift going on, so pay extra attention is what it's telling me. MJ sector, very notable profit taking. Big gap up for profit taking on Tuesday, Wednesday, and inside bar. Broke it bearish today. Daily consolidation clearly underway. I'm looking for a higher low compared to 1458, but I'm also very aware that this bounce just took a 100% move with no weekly consolidation, and we're forming a big fat bearish reversal candlestick on the weekly chart. The size of the pullback at this point tells me that even if we form a daily higher low, which I would consider is the most likely scenario compared to 1458, that we're just going to look for a daily lower high when we bounce compared to the top of 1825. And if I'm a bear, which I'm not going to play this sector bearish because I don't have good instruments to do so, not many shares available to short on Fidelity, but I would be scouting a daily lower high, and I know there's going to be a lot of bears doing that as well. And TLRY, multiple days of consolidation already. Short-term support of 767 held today. Trying to set that daily higher low. Did we change the hourly trend? Nope. Just a pump and a big pump, but a pump with no trend change. And we're looking for a higher low and a higher high on the hourly to set the daily higher low, and we did not see that happen today. Tons of volatility in both directions on TLRY. So I've been loving these names. I have never traded a cruise line before, and over the last week, I've probably taken 50 trades in RCL and CCL. Go where the volatility is, get comfortable with the individual ticker, and then that's your horse. So again, when Tesla was running all-time highs, I traded Tesla every single day for weeks, and that was it. I didn't have to look for any trades. I know Tesla's going to have volatility. I'm going to trade it. And that's been CCL for me all this week. Don't really need to look for anything else. I know CCL is going to be going up a lot, and it's going to be going down a lot when it pulls back, and that volatility is all I need on a day-to-day basis. So, long story short, Watch the S&P 500. If we see signs of weakness, which we already are, but if we see bear follow through, then we're going to be watching these laggard sectors bearish. They got their pumps out of the way, shorts were squeezed, bulls went long, and we're watching the scales to tip back again. The scales were all bears, and it got too heavy on one side, and they flipped to this big bull move. I think these cruise liners went like 45% in 3 or 4 days, and now we're looking to potentially go back to the other side, but the S&P 500 will be important to me. That's the major driving force on all of these individual names, big factors. Yes, they can do their own thing, but most often they don't. There's big impact on the S&P 500, and I always want to be trading in the direction that the S&P 500 is trading. Have a good rest of your night, and we'll see you next week. Checking in on the garlic and onions. Garlic's good to go, but some of these onions, unfortunately, are bolting, which means going to seed, which means they aren't going to make a big bulb because they're focusing all their energy on making flowers and seeds. So that can happen. This instance is most likely due to fluctuating temperatures. We had a spring where we were going up to the upper 70s and then back down to the 30s. So you can see this variety in the middle, and these are the seed heads, or the flower heads that are about to come. The red variety is not going to seed as much, but starting to see a few of them. So just might not have good onions. That being said, you can still take them now and use them as green onions, which we've been doing. The back row not seeding yet, so maybe we'll get a row out of it. Nope, they are. Bummer. Lots of green onion. When garlic does it, it's called scapes. And you can just cut it and eat it, and then they will stop and put their focus back into their bulbs. But onions won't go back. Radish. Peas still climbing. Brussels sprouts getting big. Cabbage catching up. They started a little slow. You can see all these tendrils. Every day I'm still guiding them up the fence. All the lettuce doing well, starting to pick from it daily. Eventually, I forgot I have some bush beans. I was going to climb beans up this fence, but I need a spot for bush beans as well. So with this much lettuce, definitely some of it's going to get the boot. It also doesn't perform as well in the summer. It likes the cool weather a lot better.